Welcome to episode 17 of Flight of Nova, Rogue Mode 0 to 40. We are currently at Rogue Mode grade 24, so 16 more grades to go. So over the hill, as it were. We are presently at a Galdar station, which is quite far. Last time we tried to see if we could see one of these other planets, but we also investigated that the planets are minimum a day and a half away. A better estimate is 2 days away, depending on how fast you try to go there. Whoa, why is my game running so slow? That's crazy. So, time limit on Alkin, but Alkin is too far away. Gaba station is really far away, but there's no time limit, so there's also no reason to rush it. Who's close? Dalby's pretty close. Only Dalby is close. Do I have any Dalby missions? Station Dalby. Plasma conduit. 5 bars. Alright, so if we're gonna go to Dalby Station, we need a different ship. We need to refuel our different ship. No time limit on Dalby, but it's the closest one. So we'll burn that mission. Plasma conduit. Is it getting closer or farther away? It doesn't even matter though, because they're down at 458. By the time we're gonna burn from 3,000, I mean, that offsets nothing. So, here we go. We'll burn away from we'll gently move away from the docking port. Let's see if we can get eyes on Dalby. Oh, there it is. The only speck in the sky. So we'll get turned around here. Where's Galdar? Oh yeah, this ship has got a lot of power. Galdar's in the dark. Alright, so we are going to burn down towards Dalby. We need to reduce our altitude. So I'm just going to burn straight at Dalby, and we'll correct on the way. Technically, Dalby should be moving quite a bit faster than us, but we are actually, because we're aiming directly at them, we are aiming east, which means that we will be accelerating in the direction of orbit, which should help us catch up. And if we burn hard enough, alright, we're coming up on escape velocity right now. What are we going on? We're gonna go to Dalby 458. That's still pretty high altitude. We have a lot of altitude to lose. 13 kilometers per second is probably the most I want to burn up to. We burned 25% of our propellant. We're gonna have to burn at least 30% of our propellant by the time we accelerate from gravity all the way down there in order to kind of rendezvous, and that'll be the best case scenario. And so, using the window method, we can see that Dalby does appear to be tracking away from us. So we probably also want to kind of accelerate more east. so that we do actually catch Dalby. I don't really want to come from behind it. Alright, now we are actually moving ahead of Dalby a little bit. Which is good because by the time Dalby curves away from us, we're going to have to burn again even to race ahead of it some more. So our next burn is probably not going to be based on our distance from Dalby. It's probably going to be based on our altitude. And because we're going nearly 15 kilometers per second, and we're going to want to be down at 70, we're going to have to burn half of our velocity off. Very significant burn. We're going to want to burn our first burn all the way up at like 1,000 kilometers altitude. So I'm going to go ahead and get lined up for that. And at first I think we're just going to focus on burning off our downward trajectory. No, we're definitely going to be best suited just burning directly at Galdar. Or maybe a little bit up. Alright, so we're going to need a couple hundred kilometers to burn that off, I think. Or at least 200. Actually, it's kind of looking like we need a correction burn. Well, at this point, I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking we're going to go back to Galdar as our burn vector. Alright, so now we're lined up to where we should be mostly approaching Dalby Station. It looks like we are drifting a little bit off course, but I'm not terribly concerned about it. That appears to be an inclination issue. Alright, that's pretty close. Less than 5 kilometers away. We are technically still approaching them. It's very dark. .6, 1.51. All right. And it does appear as though we are dealing with a dock port and not a dock pad, which is the best news all day. So like I said, because of our aggressive descent, we burned quite a bit of propellant, so we're now down at 39% propellant. So that means from 75 to 40 to get us down here. After our initial burn burned off 25%, that put us at 75. Then we burned another 35%. To break. So an additional 10% of fuel was required. Because of gravity. Plasma conduit. This is gonna take us to a land base. So at 450. So at 750, I believe it was, we went for 4,400 kilometers out from our destination. Presently we are on the other side of the planet. So I think if we got about 4,000 kilometers from our destination, then we could go to a -15 FPA and then burn at 90 to level off, and we should be able to do just a regular bone stock re-entry after that. It's in Triana. Alright, so we won't go to the normal departure window. We're gonna try to hit 4,000, maybe 4,100 kilometers from our destination. And it's looking pretty close that we can just use Triana. I mean, it's a different base, but... Alright, we're coming up pretty quick. 8,000 kilometers. Alright, here we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to burn to a negative 90. Matter of fact, we're just going to burn right here. There goes that station. Yep, and that's pretty close to a negative 90. Now we're going to try to achieve an FPA of negative 15. So there's negative 10. Dalby is shrinking away. Negative 15. So then we're going to check our offset here. Do we need to dogleg? No, because it says lat 0 on the destination, so we're right above it. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is about 120, 130. We're going to start burning off our descent down to a negative 5.5 FPA. And the objective is not to time it perfectly for this landing, but to test how does a 4,000 kilometer disembarkation go when we just do the move and don't worry about the distance, and see what distance we end up at after the move. So I think if we end up about 1,500 kilometers by the time we're, I don't know, I guess when we're zeroed out, we want to be around 1,000 kilometers out. By the time we zero our FPA at about 53 kilometers altitude is usually when we try to zero out. That's when we want to be around 1,000 kilometers out. Now that's a slow re-entry at that point. You can re-enter much more quickly. It does take a lot of extra game time to take that more conservative approach, but it's very safe. And the reason why I want to figure that very safe one out and stick to that very safe one is then if I'm late, I'm okay. If you're going for the aggressive re-entry and you can't be late, then if you're late, you way overshoot. You could be 1,000 kilometers away. You might have to turn around and come back for another. Whereas if you're conservatively early, then you can kind of coast extra or even use a little bit of fuel just to get that last distance. Or you can, if you're late, then you can do a more aggressive re-entry. But you're never just basically screwed. You have lots of room for error. Alright, let's start burning now. Alright, and that's actually a little bit late to burn, it looks like. Anything else, any other ship we want to burn sooner than that. And we're way wrong. So we're way early. So that's actually not very good. So actually, I'm going to burn off some of this FPA right now, because we are way out in front and we just want to more gradually descend. That was wrong, I missed. So from 450 and this, well, that was a really, here's the problem now, is that was, we were perfectly lined up. We didn't have to fly out of a space station. We just undocked and then accelerated in exactly the correct direction automatically. So, but we are still like 1,000 kilometers in advance. So that means we need to be more like 3,800 or 3,800 kilometers out at 450. So 450 to 750 does appear to be quite a big difference. So I'm going to put some trim on here. And we're just going to be real gradual with this one. I'm going to start killing that FPA really early. And then I just want to save some time at this point, so. And we'll just do a really aggressive braking pattern at the very end with some power turns. Or we might even be, we're sinking faster than I expected. We're all the way down to 54 kilometers already. I was hoping to stay higher. I needed to burn a little bit more. So in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to let ourselves bounce a little bit. So at this point, we're going to kind of skip like a rock across the water, because I'm not going to change my trim. Normally I would change my trim to maintain this altitude, but I'm going to leave myself trimmed up. And because I'm trimmed up, I'm going to gain some altitude here, because now I'm going to be skipping. Normally I want to get down in there, and then I want to go right here, and I want to stay at that low altitude because it's an ideal altitude for braking. The denser the air, then the more effective your air brake. But I'm so far out. I'm 1,000 kilometers out, and I'm already down at 6,700 meters per second. And we'll be going for grade 25. I don't remember what experience I've got. It doesn't tell me how much more XP I need to get to the next level. Alright, so now we're going to want to lose some altitude, because we're going to be going 6 and 6 here any second. So actually we want to not have any trim. And now at this point we want to dive. So I'm going to trim down. We're gonna swan dive. So I want to lose FPA until we're diving down. Well, yeah, we want to dive really aggressively. And this ship can get really hot. So now we're gonna overshoot. We're on an overshoot trajectory at this point. So we're going to be hoping for this last 100 kilometers to be really effective. This is not what we're about to do. We're just going to pull hard down. Matter of fact, I'm using engine. Now that I'm using engine, I've ruined everything. We have lots of thrust. So hopefully this will let us burn off this velocity in time. Because we were lofting too gently. I let myself climb too much. So it's pretty hot right there. Well, I can fly this 7,000 kilometers in that amount of time. And then we go to Sullen, which is the greatest station ever. 7,000 kilometers is a long ways to go. I mean, you have this debate where do you go to orbit, catch a station, and then time skip for like, or do you just hypersonic, which is what we're about to do. And just try to fly at that 70 kilometers altitude at 9-10 kilometers per second. This thing is a really powerful ship when compared to the other ones. Alright, so because we're in the atmosphere, we can use lift to keep us against the planet. So we can actually go quite a bit faster than orbital velocity. So we're far beyond orbital velocity right now. And our FPA is technically still negative, but that's because I'm burning it. Alright, so we're over 10.4. We'll just have to burn again later on. I don't want to skip out too hard. But so as our FPA is starting to change now, so we don't want that thing to be positive at all. We want it to be 0. So we just pull up here. See how now it's changing less and less. And so that's our sweet spot looking like right now. So I wonder if I can achieve that with trim. No, I don't think so. Alright, so that 50 trim, what is that going to do for us? Will we be able to hold a 0 at a 50 trim? The answer is no. No, we cannot. .4 ain't the end of the world, though. We'll just use rocket here in a little bit to speed back up. See, we could just ride this out. It's gonna take us pretty far. That's our 50 trim. We're getting a little too much altitude though. So orbital velocity at this altitude is going to be more like 7,900 meters per second, 8,000 meters per second. So we're getting a good 20% better speed right here by using lift, throwing the atmosphere up in our wake like a big old jet ski throws the water. And we are losing speed because we're in the atmosphere, but we have quite a bit of speed. We have quite a bit of velocity. So it's really not killing us. But I mean, if we stopped lifting and we skipped out, we would still be going 14,000 kilometers up at the apoapsis. But we would have already rendezvoused by now with the station, and then we'd be using time skip to go a couple thousand kilometers. So had we time skipped for a 188 station to get close and burned up, and then time skipped and then re-entered, it's hard to say if we would have saved any time or not. I'm just not 100% sure. This is a fun thing to do. So in that regard, I mean, we are actively playing the game right now, catching up to Dalby Station. This is a good way to chase a space station as well. So if you're going to chase down a space station, what you would want to do is you want to achieve this hypersonic flight. And at this point you might be calling it ultrasonic, I don't know. What are we looking at here? Mach 31? That might not be hypersonic, that might be ultrasonic. So first you want to achieve this ultrasonic flight trajectory where you're racing up faster than orbital velocity, significantly faster. Right now, if we flung out into space, we'd be going out to 37,000 kilometers at our peak of altitude. Then, right when you're almost exactly underneath the station, you want to quit lifting and let yourself fling out. So Dalby is still too far ahead of us. We'd want to wait until Dalby's right above us, and then we want to fling out, or nearly above us, and then we want to fling out. All right, we need to lose some of this altitude. We're really going fast, 10,000 meters per second. So at this point, we want to start hitting the brakes. Still got 2,000 kilometers to go, but we want to be lowering our altitude into that braking zone so that by 1,000 kilometers out, we're well under 1,000 kilometers, 1,000 meters per second, which is going to be pushing it here. Alright, so here we don't really want to lose altitude anymore. Kind of want to zero out our altitude. And now from here on out we want to be zero altitude, change, and just coasting for a little while. So we're about right perfect here. Now this is about the same place we would be in a normal re-entry. We don't want to gain altitude because that would be a terrible thing to happen when we're trying to hit the brakes using air brakes. We don't want to. We want to be right at that altitude where we won't burn up, but we get the maximum braking power. Which at this velocity is probably around 50. A little over 50, I would say. I'm conservative. So I'm a little bit higher than I need to be. I'm in a nice safe zone. And I usually manage to hit the brakes in time. There's our plasma. Alright, so it took us 15 minutes to fly a little over 7,000 kilometers. So Sullen is still pretty far away, so we're definitely going to find ourselves a launch window. 192 is where we're going to go. Solon Station, 11 minutes. So which way is east? There we go. Easterly at 50 degrees. We're at negative 2.1. So let's go a little bit north. There we go. Solon is 1,000 kilometers altitude. Feel pretty good about this attitude right here. 10:58. Check. Yep. Appoapsis is now 800, 900, 1,000. Almost spaced that one out. Which would be fitting. Yeah, so we're still at our good vector, negative 1.9 already, so I think we might have a fair inclination for this distance to travel. So we'll just ride this out and see what happens. Dark side of Norvig 3-1. The side is always dark. It's because the planet is not presently spinning. It's one of those things where, yeah, it's not terribly realistic that this planet would not be spinning. Overall, though, I don't think it really affects gameplay that much when you consider all the other things. You know, one thing, for example, is people want to talk about realistic flight simulators and stuff like that. But even the most realistic flight simulators are not simulating the aerodynamic surfaces of the real vehicle. The programmers have to sit there and place aerodynamically interactive surfaces around the craft. Not that many either. I mean, you're talking about like 2 wings and a tail. And then they just kind of have to compare the handling characteristics of the real plane and then tune the aerodynamic surfaces to roughly equate to that kind of flight performance. So a flight sim can get pretty close to the real vehicle with expectations for turning rates and things like that. But it can't actually simulate accurately the behavior of the vehicle. That is not to say a computer cannot accurately simulate the performance of a vehicle. But it might be to say that a computer can't accurately simulate the aerodynamic performance of a real-life vehicle in 60 frames per second. Or even 30 frames per second on a personal computer. You know, maybe a really high performance computer can give you one frame, and then give you another frame, and then another frame. But so much needs to happen in a video game for you to have a smooth gameplay experience. Even a really powerful computer might not be able to accurately simulate a real vehicle at gameplay performance with a smooth interaction and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I just don't think that's still there yet. And then the accurate simulation that they can provide, even with the best computers, I mean, maybe that one is still just pretty good. I mean, it might still not be that good. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much they're leaving out of the equation. They still have to do quite a bit of aerodynamic testing of real-world objects for the simulation to be that accurate. Because if the simulation was accurate, then there would be no need for all of this real-world testing. Alright, so I'm thinking that we are not going to be at an altitude. So I'm going to just kind of catch up to it, the orbital velocity here. And then we'll just fly at it. That's good enough. Greenhouse. There it is. Solon class interplanetary ship. Oh, it's more like a spaceship, huh? Look at that big engine on the back. It's hard to tell. I'll give it a little flyby. So there you see it's a large booster. And a reaction chamber, fusion reactor right there. Obvious What do you call that kind of chamber? What do they call that kind of toroidal reaction chamber? Anyways, the fusion reactor that has the toroidal magnetic field, that's obviously that kind of chamber in there. Docking Bay 1. We got this guy taking up all the room. Luckily, they usually disappear. Hopefully that doesn't interfere with my docking. Oh, that was really close. Alright, Sullen is my favorite station. One of them. So we'll just finish this mission and we'll see what level we get to. Might be get to level 25. That'll be about coming up on 2/3 of the way pretty soon. We must be getting close to 2/3. Is 2/3 like 27 of 40? Yeah, I would say 27 of 40 is a safer 2/3 complete. Because then you're at least 2/3 complete. At this point, we're like around 2/3 complete, but we're not confidently 2/3 complete. That was a pretty valuable mission. All those 5-bar missions are the way to go, huh? Alright. That'll be it for episode 17 in Flight of Nova Rogue Mode 0 to 40. Thank you very much.